Welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and I'm thrilled to bring you honest conversations with dads and daughters, sharing heartfelt stories, actionable advice, and real daughter perspectives that will help you be the best girl dad you can be. Hey, and welcome back to Girl Dad, the podcast. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and today we're doing a deep dive on doing hard things. The reason that I chose this topic for today's conversation is because I hear from a lot of dads that you have a very hard balance related to your instinct to protect your daughter, but your understanding as to what too much protection does to her, which is ultimately hold her back from reaching her own potential and learning things that will help her later in life. Another theme that goes along with this is that easier does not mean happier. And for the dads out there who want to raise happy, strong, confident daughters, doing hard things or having your daughter do hard things will help get her there. So for today's quick conversation, we are going to discuss first why doing hard things is really good for your daughter and for you. And then we will go over some specific examples of ways that you can help challenge your daughter for her own benefit. All right, let's dive in. So the why behind doing hard things. Well, first and foremost, it builds confidence. And confidence isn't just a feeling, it's a memory bank of all the past successes that you've had. And every time that you do a hard thing and succeed, it builds upon this sense of confidence and sense of self-trust that you can do something that you put your mind to. Another reason that doing hard things is good for your daughter is because we live in this dopamine world where, people doom scroll and they're constantly being fed things that try to make them feel good. And there's a difference between cheap dopamine, which is, related to scrolling on social media or eating a sugary snack where you get this rush, but long term isn't good for you. And then earned dopamine, which is what you get once you finish a hard task, you accomplish something. It's that hit of, wow, that was amazing. I'm so glad I did that. And what doing hard things does is it triggers that effort-driven reward circuit. So it tells the brain that you are in charge of your own life and you can determine your future path. And this is what scientists and researchers are saying is the cure for the learned helplessness that many young women feel today. And I think a lot of that comes from our society and our emphasis on social media, especially for young women. So again, doing hard things helps prevent that or create that force field around your daughter so that she isn't in that learned helplessness loop because she knows that she can help herself. She knows that she's capable and she's done things to prove it. So it's almost like building her internal resume where she can look and say, wow, I've done this and this, or I can do this and this. I have done this. So it just helps her realize that she's capable of a lot of things. And most importantly, she's capable of doing things that she sets her mind to. Another reason that I'm such a fan of dads encouraging their daughters to do hard things is because of what it does to her comfort zone. And this is something that I think about a lot randomly. I actually remember distinctly being on my first date with my husband, and one of the conversations that I brought up and was yapping about was the comfort zone. And I remember at that time I had kind of just thought of this visual and wanted to talk to somebody about it. And so he was he was the person I talked to. And I was just thinking of my comfort zone as 3 rings of a circle, basically. So you have this circle, and in the center is your comfort zone, and it's green. So there's a green circle followed by a yellow ring around that, and then a red ring around that. And the green is your comfort zone. The yellow is what you're unsure of or might be interested in trying but haven't yet, or have tried but haven't determined where it lays yet. And then the red is the no-no zone. That's something you don't want to do, you're not comfortable with. So, for example, like for me, skydiving is in the red. And for some people, skydiving is in the green and they love it. And I love that for them. Um, but, personally, based on experience or stories of others' experiences, I know somebody who had a near death experience with skydiving, crashed, almost died, was in a wheelchair for months. And for me, it used to be in the yellow zone and it determined, nope, that is now in the red zone. I don't think it's something worth risking my life over because the joy that I get from that, especially being a little bit scared of heights and stuff, it isn't actually bigger than the risk for me. And so I know myself, I'm putting it in the red and I'm totally fine with it being there. On the other hand, there's things that you have to try that are in the yellow to determine, okay, is this going to be green? Is this expanding my comfort zone or red? And I guess maybe skydiving was a bad example because I just pushed something to the red. And this episode is really more about just expanding that green part, your comfort zone. But sometimes, I think it's helpful to just picture something. And this is something that you can also explain to your daughter. And maybe you create your own visual for it. But the point is here, she can expand her comfort zone through things that traditionally may be uncomfortable for her. But another caveat to this comfort zone picture analogy is that you want your daughter to continuously grow that comfort zone, but also not to always live there. So the way to grow it is to experience things that are traditionally challenging and or things that you're uncertain about. But the more you can live in the green comfort zone, the less scared you are, the less you are living in fear or anxiety, and the more confident that you are because you walk around life with this real comfort as to what you're doing and how you approach things. And you've done this before, so you can do it again. And I think that's what this conversation is really about. It's about expanding that green, and the way to do that is by not living in the green also. So it's a ever evolving graph. And again, one of the points to doing hard things is just expanding that comfort zone. So those are the reasons that doing hard things are really good for your daughter. But on that same note, you doing hard things is also very good for your daughter. So number one, she learns so much from observing you. So when she sees you tackle things that make you uncomfortable, especially if you're talking through it, like let's say you have a new fitness goal and you start working towards it, and she sees you working towards that goal, it's inspiring. So she learns from you to do the same and to approach challenges or personal growth in the same way. The second reason is actions speak louder than words. So if you're preaching to her to stay disciplined with her health or challenge yourself at school, but you're not doing the same with yourself, your health, or at work, then your words will carry less weight because they're not backed by action. So by you doing hard things, your actions will speak louder than any of the words that you can try to instill on her. And the third reason that it's great for you to also do hard things is because comfort is the enemy of growth. So by intentionally seeking out challenges and doing hard things and pushing yourself, you stay sharp, and a sharp, strong, disciplined father can show up best for his daughter. So hopefully with those examples of why it's great for you to do hard things and it's great for your daughter to do hard things, you're feeling fired up, you're feeling ready to help encourage your daughter to do so. So with that said, I will now provide you with some specific examples of how you can challenge your daughter, how you can push her to do hard things. So for physical or outdoor challenges, I have a few. Number one, you can take her hiking or backpacking and give her the physical map or GPS and make her lead the way. That is a major challenge, especially if it's done for the first time, but it teaches her real life skills and can give her confidence in her ability to navigate the world. Number two, you can challenge her with cold exercises. So, people are really into cold plunges. Something like a cold shower can be very challenging and can lead to a lot of mental toughness because you really have to fight through the cold. So, encouraging her to take a 30-second cold shower or even 10-second cold shower at the end of her shower um, can be a great way to encourage mental toughness. Number three, you can encourage her to use different tools that she's unfamiliar with. So, for example, a power drill or changing a tire or building a fire. This is one of the challenges that my dad has always been really big on. He has taught my sisters and I how to use chainsaws and how to start a fire and how to tend to the fire. Those are things that we are really comfortable with now that if we were not challenged to try, they would still be in our yellow or red zone. And the last one for physical or outdoor challenges is teaching her to do one more. So this is one that I actually learned from Ed Milet. He wrote a book called The Power of One More, and this is one of his go-to phrases or pieces of advice. And what it means is you should always challenge yourself for one more. And this phrase came from his father, who was an alcoholic and got sober. And Ed asked him, you know, are you going to be sober forever? And he said, I don't know, but I'm going to be for one more day. And he kept saying that. So he was sober for one more day and one more day. And then he eventually never drank again. And so it was a really powerful tool of just focusing on that one more, because everybody can do one more rep or one more minute. And I've used that at the gym a lot. It's like, okay, they say, do 12 or do 15. Okay, well, I'm doing 13 or 16. And I think it really does make me feel good. It makes me feel powerful and it makes me feel capable because I'm challenging myself and I'm succeeding and I'm going above and beyond. So that is, yeah, just those are some examples of doing hard things physically or outdoors. So next, I wanted to give you a few social or emotional challenges that you can give to your daughter. And the reason I want to do this is because it helps navigate those awkward or uncomfortable feelings that she will inevitably face in life. But by doing so in a controlled environment or kind of giving her these situations where she has to feel those feelings, they don't become so foreign and she learns how to manage that situation or navigate that situation. So number one, when you are at a restaurant, out to dinner, brunch, whatever with the family, have her order her own food and have her make eye contact with the server, say her pleases and thank yous, but do it really early, like 4 or 5 years old, have her order her food. And that will be awkward for her. It'll be hard for her at that time, but it'll teach her so much about social connection and politeness. And there's just so many lessons to be learned in it, but it will also expand her comfort zone there. Maybe she's not comfortable speaking for herself yet. Well, these are the types of micro situations that helps get her there. Number two, if there's ever a situation where there's a conflict with the teacher or the coach, depending on the situation, but most of the time you can have your daughter actually handle it herself. So she can talk to you, come to you, get advice, practice what she's going to say. But if there's a situation where it makes sense where she can speak up for herself rather than, the parent calling the teacher or emailing, I think those are situations where she gains a lot of confidence and respect for herself. When I was actually quitting my club soccer team to focus on golf and school, it was my last day and my mom was dropping me off and the coach didn't know I was quitting yet. I was kind of going to practice and then let him know that was my last day. And I remember my mom asked, "Hey, like, do you want me to talk to the coach for you?" And I was like, "Oh no, I got it." And so I talked to him, didn't really think anything of it. And I'm sure it's because I had been challenged in all these other ways that we're talking about throughout my life. So it wasn't my first time, speaking to an adult or standing up for myself. But when I got back in the car and I told my mom, "Oh, it went well. He wished me the best," that kind of thing. She was like, "I am so proud of you for doing that yourself. It'd be easy for me to step in and do it for you, but you took the initiative and I couldn't be prouder." And those words have still stuck with me today. But I think being in that situation, it was hard. Like, it wasn't not awkward. It was totally awkward, but I challenged myself to do it and I learned a lot from it. And I also got some praise from my mom, which I loved. So I think that there's just a lot of lessons there that you can teach your daughter by encouraging her to speak for herself in given situations. Another one of those emotional challenges or situations that I wanted to talk about is boredom. And this is can be awkward for anybody, but today it's very hard to be bored because there's constant stimulation. If you're bored, you just go on your phone, you just open Instagram, you scroll, 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 you close it, you go to the next thing. You're bored again. Oh, okay, how about TikTok? And it's just this never-ending cycle of constantly being stimulated by something, whether it's social media or food or entertainment, a book, like anything. We're just constantly being fed information or feeding ourselves information and not ever sitting with our thoughts. And it can be hard to sit with your thoughts because you're like, okay, well, I want to do something now. Especially if you are in a younger generation where our brains have been wired differently because of the constant stimulation that we've faced our entire lives. So to face that, I really love the no phone, no technology, solo trips, and digital detoxes. So, for example, if your daughter has a phone and she's old enough, it'd be good for her to go for a walk without any technology. I did that when my husband went solo backpacking in the woods, and I was wanting to do my own kind of challenge here. And it was amazing. I didn't realize I could feel so much peace and feel so connected with my environment. Because, usually I'm listening to a podcast, I'm calling somebody and I'm talking to them. And so I'm kind of distracting myself from my walk. But it was really nice to just like look at the leaves on the trees and be walking and stop and legitimately smell the roses. Like, not even, I loved doing that and really appreciating what was around me and hearing the sound of kids like laughing and playing at school or playing soccer and the whistle. And like, I was just feeling really flooded with all these different amazing emotions that I don't get to have because I'm usually distracting myself with podcasts or phone calls, which aren't bad things. That's the thing. It doesn't always have to be like vices or negative things that you're filling yourself with. It's just that you're not feeling bored. And in boredom, a lot of beautiful things can happen. Another big takeaway from that was I was doing a lot of thinking and a lot of ideas were coming to me and a lot of reflection. And we don't really get a lot of time for that anymore because, again, we fill our time with distractions or things or people, and some of it good, some of it bad, but it's a never ending cycle where you don't get to sit down and reflect. So I really am a big fan of encouraging dads to encourage their daughters to do these kind of no phone solo trips, no tech, whether it's a walk or going to a coffee shop and just sitting with maybe a journal and just letting herself be there, be present with just herself. And then the same with the digital detoxes. My husband and I did a no technology day, and it was so fun. We got to spend a lot of time talking and hanging out. There was no TV, no phones, no computers, and it was really fun. So would highly encourage that as well, especially on a weekend. And um, it was a challenge, that's for sure. It wasn't necessarily easy, but there was just so much great that came from it, which is kind of the theme of doing hard things. The next category for examples of challenges for your daughter is intellectual and skill-based challenges. And I wanted to bring these up because obviously they can actually teach real skills. And they can be hard at first, but that's the point. We learn from them and we grow from them. So the first challenge in this category is having her try to fix something if it's broken. So if a toy breaks or a shelf or maybe a drawer breaks, give her the tools and try to let her figure it out for a few minutes before you help. This is something that my dad has done many times, and I have definitely failed a lot on the first part where I'm supposed to do it myself, even if he's taught me before. But that muscle memory and the experience of trying to do something yourself really helps you understand how to navigate it. And so I've learned a lot of lessons from those failures and reinforced, okay, this is actually how you do it. So I think that's a really great way to challenge your daughter with the outcome being confidence and a new skill. Number two is a budget challenge, and this is teaching her more about spending money and budgeting and being smart about different purchases and really even just understanding like what the value of a dollar is and how far it goes. So one way to do that is to give her $50 or a certain allotment at the market or grocery store, whatever you call it. And have her plan out the entire meal for the family. So dinner, breakfast, whatever it is, and have her manage all the math. So let's say you're making pasta, have her pick out the noodles and the pasta sauce and the cheese and the meat and have her add it up herself and determine whether or not it's within budget. And then obviously when she goes to check out, she can cross-check that and see how much she spent. But I think it really helps her look at pricing, understand what that means, understand the value of how far money goes, and helps her budget as well. And this is another one where I think this could be done at an early age. You could be in the market with her if she's young, but just having her kind of add things up and understand what money is and how it helps pay for different things, it just kind of helps her get an awareness on the subject and think about her purchases more strategically. The last challenge in this category is having her give some sort of presentation to learn presenting skills, research skills, and even PowerPoint skills or Canvas skills, depending on what she's using. But you can have her research a topic that she doesn't know anything about ahead of time and then teach it back to you for 5 minutes. So that might look like researching about a septic tank and how it works. This is something that my dad made us do. um, and then putting together a Canva presentation with the ins and outs of it and then teaching it to you and the family for 5 minutes. I love this example because I think it gives her so many different skills, and it is hard and it's uncomfortable and awkward, but she learns so much in the process. And yeah, it's just so good for her confidence as a public speaker as well. I mean, she's going to have to give speeches in school, and it just sets her up for success in life as well. So, big fan of that. So, those are a handful of examples of hard things that you can encourage your daughter to do that she can grow from. And I think one caveat I want to say, or not even caveat, just note, is that I would really encourage you to celebrate the effort, not just the result. So, this is something we've talked about on other podcasts, but really telling her how proud you are of the way that she's worked on a task or the way that she tried to do something hard is so much better than I'm proud that you finished it or I'm proud that you won or, you know, praising the result, because you want to encourage her through positive reinforcement to continue to do things that are challenging, especially if she's not really succeeding or she didn't like it. Make sure she knows how proud you are for trying. And I'm not talking about the whole like everybody gets a trophy mentality. I think that's the opposite of what this podcast episode is about, but it's just about making sure that she knows that you're proud of her for trying to do hard things. That's really all that I have for you today. As always, if you do try any of the examples that we talked about, or if you thought of your own and try that with your daughter as well, please DM me or email me and tell me about the experience, because I love hearing stories and I love hearing from you. So, yeah. Also, if you are listening to this podcast but you're not currently subscribed, please subscribe because it helps me reach more dads and helps spread this message and make the world a better place. And with that, as always, thank you so much for tuning in and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for tuning in to Girl Dad, the podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow girl dad. I read every review and truly take your words to heart. To close out, remember, your intentional moments make lasting legacies. See you next week.